How's it going? Okay, so is option equal to value serves two purposes. Okay, two purposes. One is to display yellow warning if the value that you selected does not exist in the original options array. So this is the original options array. It is passed into the options, which is autocomplete in here, and we can see it in the function original options array in here. Okay. I'm just thinking how to explain it, like, because I already made like a humongous video on this, but I'm trying to simplify it. Okay. So how do we control? So there are two things. Okay, so let's break it down. The first is how do we control whether the message, yellow message, appears or not. So if this function returns false, the yellow message will appear. Okay, so we return false. We will see that the yellow message immediately appears. Doesn't matter what we select. It will say that, okay, this label cannot be found in the original options array in here. Although that's not true, but because we are returning false, it will always show you that message. If we return true, it will not show you this message. And that's it. So you see, we reload. Doesn't matter what we select, there's no message. Okay? So now, second reason why this function exists is because when you are selecting something from this drop down, you see all of them are highlighted. That's because normally when you select Godfather, the Godfather will be highlighted. If you select Godfather Part 2 is going to be highlighted. But right now, it's highlighting everything. So how do we fix that? So we want to look, okay. So we want to do this. Well, let me just, honestly, I'm going to remove all of this. We probably want to keep console logs. And then we are going to remove all of this. So this function, return true, okay. It has two arguments. Original options array, which is, again, this thing here, which is coming from options, which is in here. And whatever it is that we selected in the drop-down. So it becomes value, which is selected drop-down value. And we can see it in here, you see? So original options array, we will have all of them. Now, original options array is going to circulate through all of them. Basically, what this function does is it's trying to see whether this option that you selected exists in the original option array. And then based on logic, you have to tell it what to say, true or false. If it's true, it will highlight it. I don't know how to explain it. God damn it! I'll link the previous video. My previous video is super long. You have to sit here and kind of experiment with it. Then you will understand the fundamentally what it works, how it works. Because original option array will always circulate 3 times or whatever. How many items do you have in the array? It will do it like, think about it. It will ping every single item and say, okay, is the selected option one of these thingies? If so, it will. If yes, it will highlight it in the drop down and not show you the message. If not, it will not highlight it, and it will show you the message. Do you understand? Well, you probably won't. You have to experiment. You're gonna have to sit for like I had to sit on this for like 3 hours now to get the logic. Like I started at what, like 4 something, and I've been at it for 4 hours. I had lunch, but I mean I was at it for 4 hours just to understand it. So I mean I can't do it in 10 minutes. It's just this component is too complex. But fundamentally, original option array is the select drop-down value. Okay, so okay, let's say we select. So we can see it in here. Original options array. We selected. So original option array is this. Original option array is all of the options in the array. Do you see? In the original option array. It will circulate 3 times because there are 3 items in the original option array. And then select drop down is always gonna be whatever we picked. So which is the Godfather. Okay, so now right now it's highlighting everything because it thinks that every single thing we select maps to every single item in the original array, which is not true. So we need to make sure that if we select Godfather, only Godfather gets highlighted, right? So the way we do that, both of them have label, so we're gonna map based on the label. So we're gonna say if original option array dot label equals to the Godfather and select the drop-down value label equals to the Godfather. Whoops. Return true, else return false. Alright, so what have we done? We have mapped selected item, well, select drop-down value to Godfather. So every time they select the Godfather from the selected drop-down, it will be mapped to here. And it will highlight it. But since we have not handled the rest, it will be false. So it will give us 2 warnings. So every one of them will give us warning except for the Godfather. Look, warning, warning, and nothing is being highlighted because it doesn't know what to map. But if we select Godfather, boom, there it is, it highlights it. No warning, and it highlights it because we have mapped it. Do you understand? Everything else is like, what? What are you doing, dude? It doesn't know where to map it. So now we have to map it, right? Naturally, because labels and select drop-down values match, the easiest way to do it is if original label is equal to selected label. You're probably going to get confused. Return true. Because you have to remember, anything you can select from the drop down is already inside of the array. So you can just map it based on label. But you can do it manually, which is like, okay, so let's just comment this out, and if original label is equal to, it's just gonna take like quadrillion years, because if you have like, I don't know, 70,000, oh shit, if you have 70,000 entries, I mean, you're gonna have to manually do it, you know? It's gonna be horrendous. So now you see it's going to highlight Sean. So it's going to work for. It's going to work for 2 out of 3, right? So if we select Sean, it's going to highlight Sean, right? Because it's mapped. If we select Godfather, it will highlight the Godfather. No message, no error message, because it knows how to map what you selected to what is in the array. And then this is going to give us yellow warning because it does not know where does this drop-down value belong in the original options array. So we can tell it where it belongs. But again, because everything you select from the original options array will be the selected drop-down value. And both of them have labels, so we're mapping. And now we can just remove these conditions because they're exactly the same. I'm just thinking that there isn't probably more of a easier explainer way of doing it. So you see now there are no, it's highlighting everything correctly, so it's working. Okay, so it's not being confused. You can think of this, okay, where does this selected drop-down value belong in here? And then just map it. And that's it. Using something simple like labels is the easiest way to usually do it, right? So now, okay, so now do we say, but why do we need it? Because normally you can just do it this way and it's probably going to, well, it's not going to work because you still need the original value. It's probably going to complain about everything, right? Oh, it's mapping automatically. Okay. Yeah, so now it's mapping automatically because you don't really need it if original options is all there is to display, you do not need this at all. As long as you put null in here. If you put this in here, then you're gonna have complaints. But since you're putting null, it's okay. It's going to work. Let me just write it down that I do not need isOptionEqualToValue function if I put null into the controlled state. Controlled state is this stuff here because it's being mapped to the inputs in here. It's confusing stuff, but okay. Alright, so now let's get to the edge case. We get to the edge case. So now, let's say we have everything mapped out, everything is working fine, but in filter options, we want to have that if we type 1, we can select 1, and this 1 should map to this one here, the first one. And then if we type 2, it maps to 2. It maps to this one. If 3, we map to this one. So I'll link a video in the description below to see how to use filter options, but basically so you see what's going to happen right now. We are going to type 1. 1 is going to appear in the drop-down selection, which is not in the original options array. We're going to get a yellow warning. Boom, yellow warning. Because it's telling us, hey, what is this label 1 belong to in the original options array? So now we have to map it. Right? So what do? We go here and we say, if selected drop-down value dot label equals to 1, and so where do we want to map it? Original label. Label is equal to So what do you want to map it to? Let's say we want to map it to this guy here. Return true. So now we will see that as soon as we type 1 and we select 1, shown redemption, the first one, is going to be highlighted. This one here. So you see shown redemption is being selected now. So we can do it two ways. We can do it out of this, or custom type 1, select 1, there it is. So now we get no yellow warning. So if we type 2, so the feed for the options is now coming from the filter options. So you see if we have input is equal to 2, show drop down with label 2. So this always has to return an array. So that's why we get this thing. So we are selecting 2 and we get a warning. Boom. Yellow warning. Hey, what does 2 belong in the original option array? And we say, alright, let me map it for you. So we do if select drop down option equal to 2. Well, let's do, it's not gonna get confused, but let's map 2 to 3 to this option here. So you will see that it's going to highlight the third one, even though it's technically not correct, but whatever. I'm just showing you that you decide the logic of how it maps, not the system. So it's up to you. Do you see? Now it's mapping here. You see, so we type 2, we select it, and then the third one is getting mapped. You see what I'm saying? Now, the only important thing that you have to understand is that the controlled inputs will still show whatever you pick in the selected dropdown. So you see, even though we're mapping 1 to shown redemption, your control inputs will still show 1. So that's one of the things is that you just have to be aware of. Okay? Which kind of makes the whole bloody thing useless to some extent. Because I mean, if you're trying to pass the filter into some kind of a table, this like ultimately all you're doing with this is trying to get rid of the yellow warnings. That's about yellow warnings and then highlighting the correct label. That's about it. Outside of that, it's kind of useless, to be honest with you. Because look, you see, we type 1, we click, it's highlighting shown redemption, but text field value, which is your state, is 1, and drop-down value is 1. Because that's what's being displayed in here. You see, so realistically, the only purpose of this thing is to highlight the correct drop-down in the original options array and to get rid of yellow warnings. Outside of that, it's not very useful. Okay, but I'm just telling you how it works. You know? Maybe someday I'll figure out how to actually map it, you know, so that you can pass them to a filter or something like this, you know. Because if you're using this on top of a table and then you need to put that filter into the table, you need to be putting shown redemption into the filter, not 1. But obviously you can do it through custom function, but it will be cool to have it already built in, you know. But again, it's custom request. Alright, take care, bye bye.